Hello, I'm Michael. I'm a so-so improv artist. I'm an entrepreneur, small business owner, pawn shop owner, a TV host, and your host for what we call the Second Scene Podcast. It is a Dweebs Global production where we give free resume help, mental health assistance, you name it. We have mentors around the world. They're completely free. It is completely confidential. So please go to dweebsglobal.org. I'm here today with Peter Spector. So I know Peter from conventions from the pawn world, but I had no idea of his diversity until we sat down over breakfast, I guess, the other morning. Not the other morning, like 3 weeks ago. So at one of the conventions we were at. So out of college, Peter became an actor. He was in more than 60 TV commercials, hundreds of radio spots, over 10,000 hours in TV and film. He hosted everything from early edition to introducing the Sega Genesis at CES to a golf editorial for Playboy and so much more. You would never guess a second scene because it's completely different. He is also a well-respected and very successful gold refiner for over the last 21 years. If you don't know what one is, then we will definitely get into that later in the podcast. But I'm always really into the acting stuff, so I'm gonna attack you there first, and then we'll delve into gold refining. So you got into acting right after college. Is that something you wanted to do? Is that something you always?
I was in school. I didn't love school. My father was an attorney, and I was originally slated just to go to law school, and it just wasn't for me. I met a guy who became a really good friend of mine for a lot of years, and he was from Carson City, Nevada. And we got to talking one day, and I said, you know what, I'm going to come out there during the summer after school, and let's take a drive out to LA and just let's become actors. So I hadn't acted in high school. I had always kind of dreamt of it, but I hadn't really ever done it. So we drove out through the Mojave Desert and went to LA, stayed at the the Doofy Hotel. And the reason how I found that hotel was it was in West Hollywood. The manager of that hotel was from Milwaukee originally, which is where I'm from. And we stayed there under Kenny G's band rate, which was like $150 a night or something. This is going back a long time. And we stayed there for about a month. And I got into some extra work there and met some people. I was on Wired with Michael Chiklis, and I was on a TV movie with Melissa Gilbert and Woody Harrelson. And Melissa Gilbert, actually, someone said she thinks you're kind of cute. She likes that Rob Lowe type. I'm like, oh, geez, I wish. But went back to Milwaukee after the trip and started trying to get an agent there. And it was tough. But I did. I just pounded them until they finally took me on. So started doing some extra work on TV commercials, got into a play called Arsenic and Old Lace. And then
how did you get, I'm sorry, I'm going to stop you here, but how'd you get an agent with almost no work? With no portfolio?
It was hard. It was hard, as you know. And it was, it's probably, as the years went on, it was probably harder at that point. But it was a small agency in Milwaukee, and called Jennifer's Talent at the time, and they didn't want me, and it took me about a year to kind of say, hey, I can do this. And
were you doing work at the time? Were you?
No, I was selling electronics. I was going to UW at the time, the UW Milwaukee. It just didn't. I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to act. And once they signed me and gave me a shot, they saw that I really could book some talent. And they were calling me and saying, hey, you got an audition for this, you got an audition for that, you got a booking up in Madison, you got a booking in Chicago. And it started to kind of fly and started to kind of just move. And I was a pretty good marketer too. So I just kind of, I came up with this thing called a coffee mug called the Versatile Mug. And it was the Versatile Mug, Peter B. Spector. And that, it was a coffee mug, but it was my mug that was versatile. So I was playing the young teen, and up until I was like 20 and almost 30 years old, I looked like I was 17 years old. So the youth really was working for me.
Yeah. It's still amazing that you got them to sign you without
Yeah,
any prior work. You had really no education in it. It was just
no,
you.
no, but I did. I was driving to Chicago, which was about, it was an hour and a half drive to where I was going to Jane Brody's School of Acting. And I would drive twice a week back and forth. And I was taking audition classes and workshops. And I really was just trying to get out there and everything I could possibly do. And I did that my whole career. I was always, one day I would be an extra on a Miller Lite commercial. The next day or 2 days later, I was on as a principal for Early Edition with Kyle Chandler and the other guy, Fisher Stevens. So whatever it took to get in front of the camera. And one day I was doing an industrial. Next day I was doing a print ad. I did Girl Talk Dateline. I was doing the thing with in Playboy. And so you know, I mean, you just always try and get your name out there and get your face out there. So it took a lot of years, but I was one of the top 5% of all working actors in Chicago.
Wow, that's unbelievable to be young and have that much energy and motivated. You still have that in
Yeah,
you? You still have
and
it?
I.
Are you still you still
It just doesn't go at the same speed, Michael.
Yeah. I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane how you did that. I mean, you must have really put the grind down, and you must have had some talent in order to.
Yeah, well, I will tell you that when I did Arsenic and Old Lace, one of the directors on it said, hey, we're doing Biloxi Blues at Shorewood Players. I'd love you to audition. And I said, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll audition. So I auditioned, and I went in for the role of Epstein, which was, you know, the counterpart, the secondary lead. And they said, no, we want you for Eugene. And I flipped through the book, and I'm like, oh my God, I mean, there must have been 10, 11, 12 two-page monologues, you know, one after another. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do it. She's like, you can do it. And Cindy Bragg, who's passed away now many, many years, but I did it. And I remember one of the Sunday matinees where I was in my final monologue, and it was a great play. And I mean, we shaved our heads and we had great publicity for it. And I really, really took it. I mean, I really became Eugene, and at least I thought I did. And the Sunday matinee that we did was the final matinee. And I remember hearing people in my final monologue going from laughter to hearing some people weeping, literally crying. And I knew how powerful that could be. And I knew that I had that in me. You know what I mean? I mean, you can hear it subliminally, but as an actor, but you're not focused on it, but I could hear it. And I knew how powerful that medium was. And I knew how powerful acting was. That you could take someone from those emotions, from laughter to literally crying with just some spoken words. And that's what I've always loved about movies too.
Wow. Well, yeah, I can't imagine the feeling. You know, when I get up there and I do like my improv or speaking, I love to hear the laughs, but I'd imagine it's a whole nother level when you can really bring out more.
Yeah, and the laughter is terrific too. I mean, I was looking through some old tapes the other day, and that I have digitally digitized, and there was a scene where we were going in to see the prostitute Rowena, and I said we were having a conversation. He said, you don't even know how many ways there are to basically have sex. And I said, yeah, there's 52 ways. And he goes, how do you know that? I said, I saw a dirty deck of cards once. And the whole audience just belted out in laughter. Those were moments, that were they were timing. And it was, I just always kind of, I had that timing. I was a shticky little kid. I was a little wiseacre when I was a kid in Milwaukee, and everybody knew me as a little wise ass.
You can still hear
it. I had timing.
It's still there. You can still.
Yeah.
I can imagine it. I do have to ask about the Playboy golf tournament. What was that like?
It was actually an editorial, and I forget the year. I think it was maybe 1995, 97, somewhere in there.
That was the heyday of
And
it.
pardon me?
That was like
Yes.
the heyday of it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I have the issue over here. I'd step away for a minute and grab it. But um, I was asked to do a golf editorial where they just lined me up with all these different gadgets. And Mark Hauser shot it, and I'd always wanted to shoot with Mark Hauser. He was a terrific, terrific photographer. There was probably about 5 or 6 photographers: Bill Tucker, Jean, I forget her name offhand, but there was a bunch of photographers that were really, really good, and they were the tops. I mean, these were the people that were shooting Michael Jordan and Woody Allen and Tom Hanks, and you name it. These people were shooting the biggest of the biggest stars and celebrities at that time when they were really considered celebrities. So it was a really honor. It was an honor to shoot with them, and ended up as a beautiful black and white photo in the with an editorial on these golf gadgets. So that was, I was in Playboy, but I had done a lot of other print ads that ended up in Entertainment Weekly and Good Housekeeping and GQ, and so there were other ads for other products that I had done that I was lucky enough to be a part of.
I got you. You're gonna have to send me some of the pictures from your early days.
I will. Yeah. In fact, one of the agents, the agent who took Cindy Crawford on, who discovered her literally in Wheaton, Illinois, told me not to grow my hair out. She said, "You'll never work a day." And I grew my hair out, and I never stopped working. And she apologized to me years later, and I still keep in touch with her through Facebook. But she told me not to grow my hair out. And at that time, Robert Downey Jr. and Rob Morrow, they were up and coming, like big kind of names, and people wanted to have that kind of a look. So when they wanted a Rob Morrow look, they would call me in, and I had the hair, and I had the kind of the young attorney, young accountant, young husband. So when Love's Diapers, we shot a Love's Diaper commercial, I was the young husband, and they wanted the young Rob Morrow kind of look. Gotcha. And so you find a niche and you fill it, and thankfully there was a niche for many years.
Right. You were really, you were really there at the height, a lot of those of the beginning of those careers, like Robert Downey Jr. But there was a lot of drugs. There was a lot of other things going on. You seem like a very clean, healthy guy. How did you avoid that, or was there temptation that you had to pull yourself out of? And
no, there really wasn't, to be honest with you. It's not like I've never, experimented. But my thing is that I just wanted to wake up the next day and go to work and hustle to audition and work. And I was really driven. And even when I was acting, I was bartending, I was catering on the weekends, and I was, for many, many years, I was making a lot of money. I was making a good living, and I had insurance, and everything was great. I mean, my daughter was born 6.5 weeks early, and I had obviously made enough, well, not obviously, but made enough money that year to qualify for insurance. And at that time, SAG insurance was 100% covered. So she spent 28 days in the neo-nic, and it was like a $90,000 bill. It was going back 23 years ago. And I think it cost me $800 in total for the entire thing. So I always wanted to work, and I didn't want to sit back. And a good friend of mine who founded Skinny Pop, the popcorn, he used to call me. We were really tight as tight could be when we were in our 20s. And he'd say, "Spec, let's go grab an Acorn Burger on Oak Street." And I'm like, "Dude, I gotta work, or I have an audition." He's like, "Forget about it." He didn't care because he didn't have to, he had his father's money and whatever. So right. I wanted to work, and I wanted to audition, and I wanted to be a part of anything that would help my career. And that's, and it was hard to give it up. It was hard to give it up when I gave it up in 2000.
Yeah, well, it's impressive that you did that. I know that I probably could have done twice as much as I did if it wasn't for the temptations and the other.
Yeah. I never, I went out, but most of my friends were starting to go out at 10, 11 o'clock at night. And by that time I was tired. I didn't want to go out, and I did go out one night and ended up getting socked in the face by some guy. And that was the day after that. I ended up meeting my wife where she was working, and a set of commercials that I was supposed to film ended up being postponed, thankfully, because I had a nice shiner in my eye.
Right.
But I got him back. It was like a Rocky Apollo punch. So
Did your wife feel bad for you? Is that how you picked her up? It was
yeah, maybe, I don't know, or maybe she just thought, like, what am I getting myself into by dating this guy?
Were you a smart ass to him? Like, what caused you to get socked?
I was dating a girl at the time, and he was kind of hitting on her, and she didn't want him to hit on her, obviously. And I walked up to him and I said, hey, I'm an undercover cop, back off. And he socked me. Right in the eye.
He didn't believe you, huh? It was.
No.
Your acting didn't come.
And I got thrown out of the club too.
I don't know if that's funny.
Yeah, right.
So I know I just have to bring this up, but you Don't Know Jack, the second volume CD. I lived on that game for a good period of time. So when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, you were part of my life there for a good couple months.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, I was they had funny story about that. Jill and I went to a Barnes and Noble at Old Orchard Shopping Mall in Skokie, Illinois. And she went off to the book side. I went off to they used to have this thing called Software, Etc. And I think that's what it was called. Yeah. And so I went off, and I was the only one in there. There was no employee, nothing, no other. It was like the movie Big, where I walked up to that machine, and there was literally a computer on a table playing, hey, how you doing? Welcome to the show. My name's, Nate, and blah, blah, blah. And you don't know Jack. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. And I told her, I said, you got to see this thing. It's so cool. And I walked her over, and she was like, yeah, okay, let's go. And the following day, I got a call from my agent, my voice agent at Voices Unlimited. She said, you've got an audition for something called, I don't know, You Don't Know Jack or something. It's a blind audition. Go, you've got a 3:30 appointment at audition at, tomorrow at Jellyvision. So I go to the audition, and I was like, wow, literally I saw the game. I didn't know what it was. I knew nothing about it. And I was being asked to audition for it. So I auditioned. We auditioned in front of a screen, so they didn't want to see your face. They just wanted to hear your voice. So I was like, hey, how you doing? Welcome to the show. My name's Buzz. You can call me Buzz. And I got a call back, and ended up winning the role. And were holding auditions in Chicago, New York, LA, literally almost all over the country.
Wow.
And so I beat out some pretty good names that were really big voiceover guys here, and started going to work. And after they negotiated everything, and I was working in that booth from like 8 in the morning until sometimes 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. For 3 months, I went there every day. That was my job. And one night I was there doing edits from about 8 p.m. through about maybe 3 or 4 in the morning, just doing edits and just going over questions and redoing questions and thinking of things. And they just let me be and let me do my thing, which was good and bad, because I would have liked to have had some direction at some point, someone to say, hey, why don't you try this? But they were just like, nah, just do it. And
it worked for you. Just for people that don't know.
It did.
This was this was a video game, computer game back in the 90s.
Yeah, 1997 it came out. It was a CD-ROM video game.
It had a really smart ass host that would make fun of you, or would tell you the trivia, or it was a great game. I played it nonstop with my girlfriend at the time. It was literally
one of my neighbors in Chicago, when he found out that I was that I was the host, brought me over when his friends were over there and they were playing. They were like, basically like you look taller on the video game, even though you never see me. Oh, no. It's not like I'm the tallest of people, as you know. So so anyways, I got the game, and they actually, when they hired me, they thought I was a 17-year-old surfer dude, and I wasn't even I was 28 years old, 27 years old, whatever it was. So it was a cool experience, and I was grateful for it.
So it sounds like you loved being an actor. What was the reason you stopped?
I did love most things about it. The addiction, getting back to what you were asking before about, drugs and alcohol and all the kind of great things that kind of go along with, or things that you think about go along with being in that industry. The drug for me was always getting the work and getting the audition. That was my drug. That was what kept me going. And in 2000, I had a lot of stuff on the air, television and radio, and I was working, and everything was good, and I had a baby, and the strike came along, SAG-AFTRA strike, and so I wasn't going to break the line, and I stayed true to my organization, and so I started selling phone service, and I called on the refiner that I used to work for, and he said, I don't need your service, but I actually like the way that you sell. Would you ever come work for me? So I said, no. He said, no. I kept pursuing him. He kept pursuing me. And after a couple months, my money was dwindling hard. And I didn't want to bartend and be in a position of having nothing at 50. I just turned 54, 4 days ago. And I didn't want to be at this age having nothing to show for it, and not having had kind of the life I've lived over the past 20 some odd years. So I had to make a decision for my family, and I did, and it was hard. And I still took some voiceover gigs. I still took some industrial work, which is training videos for McDonald's and for Walgreens, for Kohl's department stores. If they called and they said, hey, we're looking, is Peter Spector available? I would say, see if I was available. And one time we shot on I think it was Christmas Eve up in Madison, and so I drove up there. I was still living in Chicago at the time.
Wow, how scary! How scary to change careers at that point.
Yeah, especially at 30, whatever it was, 30 years old, 32 years old, 33, and 33 I would have been. So yeah, it was tough, but I did it for my family. I did it for my girls, and sometimes you make that sacrifice. And you know what? I wasn't single. I didn't want to be selfish in my life, and I wanted to have things, and not just things to have things. I just wanted to have a life. I didn't want to live that life where I was going out to LA to audition for sitcoms and coming back and having to wait tables. And there's nothing wrong with that, and I don't discount it. It just wasn't what I wanted for myself.
Yeah, I think as we all get older and we have kids, it's a security you want. You don't want to have to worry about how your kids are going to go to college, how you're, how you're going to pay own the house and pay the mortgage, and you
that's correct.
Some more cushion. Yeah, I think a lot of us go through that and buckle down, get a little more serious.
Yeah, and it's look, it's some people can do it. I have many friends who have made it after many years of struggling, and they've gotten TV shows, they've gotten movies, and some guys had the life, and now who knows where they are? I don't know. Never seen them, and they couldn't have made that much money that they're just living off residuals or whatever. But yeah, it's a tough life, and especially now, and God, I could not have imagined having been an actor full time, having relied on that through COVID, when everything shut down.
Right. So many.
I mean, you couldn't even get a job in a restaurant at that point.
No, that is so true. So then you got into gold refining. So that was something you had done a little bit of. It sounded like you worked for somebody for a little while beforehand, or no?
I had never. I didn't know. The only thing I knew about gold was that I had bought a girlfriend of mine since we grew up, and our grandmas grew up together in Milwaukee. Her father owned a pawn shop, and I bought chains from him. And when I was 16, 17 years old, I was walking around with the big herringbones like everyone had in the 80s. I'm sure you had You know,
I did
just
not. I did not. I think I was a tad younger where I did not. 3 years earlier, I probably would have.
yeah.
So
But
how'd you even think of getting into gold refining? How was that even on
I
your
didn't.
radar?
It was a job. It was a sales job, literally.
Okay.
And I thought it was cool. And it took me a while to kind of come to terms that I was leaving acting and that I was going to have an actual career, an actual job. And we gave it 3 months when I first started, and I was doing a great job, and I really liked it. I thought it was cool. It's really, you're working with the same metals. You're working with gold, silver, platinum, palladium, but the variables change. So it could be dental, it could be from a crematory, which sounds disgusting, and it is. But you're working with bullion, you're working with manufacturing jewelers, you're working with pawnbrokers, you're working with scrap, you're working with gold scrap with diamonds. So there were all these different things. And then there was all the stuff that would come in that wasn't metal. So, you know, that like I like this chain. I don't know if I'm holding it up for the camera, but there's a chain that a client of mine in Iowa bought. It's marked 18 karat Italy, and it's stainless. And he bought it, and I think it was a really expensive mistake. Probably like $1,000 to $1,500 that he paid for it, thinking that it was a $3,000 chain. And most of my clients, a lot of my clients have done it. There was years ago, there were Rolex bands that were going around, the big necklaces. Well, Rolex doesn't make necklaces. So, but a lot of people bought them.
They do. So you're telling me if it's stamped 18 karat, it doesn't mean it's actually 18 karat?
That's right.
People can stamp fake stuff. So
Yeah.
we get in the store, my shop all the time. People come in and they'll be like, yeah, I just helped this guy over at the gas station. He needed some money, but you know, he sold me his gold chain really cheap just because he needed the cash now. So I'm coming to you to sell it to you. And it's like
Right.
the fake stuff. They were just
It's brass.
yeah, totally taken
Yeah.
advantage of. And is there
Yeah.
anything that Joe Schmo can do to tell if something is real without any tools that we have at our disposal?
That's a great question. So I think the average person, really, it comes down to senses. Does it look like gold? Does it have the weight or feel of gold? Is it magnetic? Real gold should not be magnetic. The clasp will, because it'll have some iron in it typically, you know, to keep it more firm. But really a 14 karat chain, let's say yellow gold, should not be magnetic. It should not pull to a magnet. There are acid tests. There are ways that there are XRF or X-rays and things like that. But the average person looking at it, A, it should not be magnetic, and 2, it should always have the feel of some weight.
Right.
Platinum versus silver, platinum versus stainless, platinum versus lead will have a different weight and a density to it. And those are things that you kind of learn over time. And unfortunately, people make mistakes. But if you're not sure, I always say don't buy it.
Right. I've been in the business for 25 years and I still get taken sometimes, and I have the tools to tell whether or not it's fake or not. And I still will buy the occasional fake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is too, is that for the average person walking around a street in Chicago or Nashville or one of the busy Austin, Texas, and if someone approaches you with a story, just walk away. Don't buy it. Just if you want to give them $10 or $20, give them some money, but don't take the gold. Don't give them any more than that. A story is a story. You know, I used to tell my clients all the time, and I have clients in almost every state in the United States, is that if you see somebody, you're in Oklahoma City, and you see someone with Wisconsin plates selling you a $2,800 necklace, you know, the first with a story about your girlfriend and whatever else, and you're just deny it. It's not the right deal for you. Say goodbye. It doesn't.
It's amazing how many people fall for it. It's amazing. Almost when they're in my area, whoever these people are,
Yeah.
Man, we get once or twice a week, somebody will come in that was taken by them.
Right.
Yeah. But if somebody comes to my shop, we always have to ask for identification because we have to report everything because everything's monitored by the police and everything. But whenever we ask for an ID, if it's an out-of-state ID, oh, that gold is triple checked. It is.
Yeah. So when I got into this business, I learned literally every step. I sat with the trader. I sat in the melting department. I went into the lab, and I learned everything about the industry, and it was just intriguing. It was like acting to me, which is why I chose a career, because nobody. When I used to walk around and go to lunch or whatever with my friends, they'd say, we're attorneys, we're becoming doctors, we're this, we're working for our family business. And I'd say, I'm an actor. And they'd say, wow, like you're an anomaly.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went into the gold refining business, especially 21 years ago, nobody was doing it. So that to me, as with my personality as a Gemini, I always wanted to be a little bit of a standout, and I always wanted to be a little bit different than everyone else. Maybe that's why I didn't go to law school.
Yeah, well, I'm
Other than being smart enough.
that was I mean, I didn't go to law school because I chose not. No, I'm just kidding. Same reason here.
Smart guy. I love that.
I have the same thing with being a pawn shop owner. To sit around a table, everyone wants to say the profession and the pawn shop owner. It's like, ooh. That's different.
Right.
Yeah. But it also,
it's cool, isn't it?
It's definitely cool. There's the other side of it though, where I've had people say, you don't know anything, you're a pawn shop guy. Like there's definitely a lack of respect at times as well. So it goes both ways.
Yeah. Well, if they saw what you did on a daily basis, Michael, with everything that you have to be knowledgeable about, all the forms that you have to fill out, and everything you have to do with accounting and with your software, and just knowing everything, not only just from servicing clients and being true to your customers, but actually purchasing and payroll and everything else that you have to deal with. I'm telling you, I couldn't do it.
It's a much more complicated business than just a retail store. I mean,
it truly is.
So
I know.
Parts, so yeah, it's fun though. I love it. But back to
Yeah.
the gold refining. Can you walk through the process of gold refining?
Sure. So when my clients, when a pawnbroker, for instance, sends me gold, what we do at my facility is we check everything first. We give everything a spot check. We look to see if something sticks out. Is it silver? Is it platinum? Is it stainless? Is there something odd?
Right. Let me real quick. So what he's talking about is people will come in and they'll get loans in their gold and they won't pick it up, or they'll sell me gold. We'll put some of it out for sale, but then there's a lot of it that's we just don't think we'll be able to sell it, or it's just in not condition to be sold. So we'll essentially put it in a big bag, cut off the pieces we want to keep, maybe some of the diamonds and some other things, but we'll send them a bag of just broken or even real, full pieces of gold. There's literally a bag of pieces of jewelry. So
yeah, and especially at this time, we see a lot of aged inventory. And what happens is that in a jewelry store or a pawn shop, something may not have sold, or a group of pieces may not have sold for 6 months or a year. And at that point, the jeweler or the pawnbroker, or whoever it is, wants to get their money back out of it so they can get it back out onto the street and get it working for them, because it's doing nothing sitting in a safe or in a showcase. So that's where people like me come in. And so we test it, and then we melt it or process it, depending on if it's a clean melt. And by clean melt, it doesn't have any diamonds for removal or return. So the clean gold will go into a furnace. It'll get melted and poured into a bar, essentially. And during the melt, we actually take like a blood sample from it. So we take a tube sample directly from the molten liquid, and we'll cut off a piece, and that'll go into my my laboratory, and we test it for its purity. And that's how we pay our clients. So if you've got 14 karat gold, it should be somewhere between about 56 and 58% pure if it's all 14 karat gold that's manufactured properly. And then we pay our clients for that, less a little bit of a percentage and a small processing fee, and we move forward.
Right. So what you're talking about, like the 14 karat. So I don't know if people understand that, like there's different karat, 8 karat, 10 karat, 14 karat, 18 karat. Instead of 10 karat, sometimes you'll see 417. stamped on instead of 10 karat. And essentially that means it's 41.7% gold.
Correct. So typical karat gold is made up of an alloy. It's not just gold, unless it's 24 karat, in which case it's going to be really soft and it's not going to last very long. 41% gold will have silver, will have copper, will have some nickel, possibly zinc, and that makes up 100%. So they always have to get to a number that's 100%, but 41% of that gold. So if you've got 1 ounce of gold and it's 41% gold, it's 0.4 ounces of gold out of that 1 ounce. The higher you go in your carat, the softer the metal is going to be.
Right. So you can't really make a ring 24 karat. It's going to fall apart on
No,
you.
you wouldn't want it. No, it would be pretty, but it would almost melt off your hand, you know.
Right. And we've definitely gotten pieces in that are stamped 10 karat, and you test it and it's not 10. You can't tell exactly what it is, but it's 6 to 8 or 6 to 9.
And that's, you bring up an important point, because a lot of my clients, if they base everything on plum gold, which is the 41.7, 58.5, 75%, if you base it on plum and it's not manufactured to that, where you have a 10 karat ring that's running 8 karat, I'm always going to be off. The refiner always, it's the last person that touches that gold. Right. So even if the refiner, who has an excellent reputation and a long-standing career and has been around, my company's been around for 43 years with one of the best reputations in the United States. Even if we haven't done anything wrong, we're still the last person to touch that gold. And the onus is always on us, even though we haven't done anything wrong. I always tell people gold is like an M&M. You can't tell what's inside until you take a bite of it. So until we actually process it and assay it to see how much pure gold is in that material, we don't know as a refiner just by looking at it. Just like this thing, it's 18 karat, but there's no gold in it. So if we didn't x-ray it or assay it, we would just, we would be the ones who would have that that on them. We would be the ones that were crooks or not doing our business, our work correctly.
It takes a lot of trust building between.
It does.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very fortunate that I am able to build trust with my clients and friends. And I have clients and friends in states that I've never even met, that I'm the only guy that they trust in my business. And I take that very seriously, and I go to sleep with that very seriously. I don't take it for granted. And that's probably one of the reasons why I've built up the kind of business and the name and reputation that I have, because I care more than the average bear. It's not just a 9 to 5 for me.
Right. Us pawnbrokers are very temperamental with our money.
Yes. Yes, I do.
So what happens after the gold, after you melt it? So you put it in bars, and then what happens to that?
So after we take title to the material and we pay our clients, that metal gets commingled into an even larger bar, and that goes in for further refining. The cost of refining is expensive, so we can't just take a 10 ounce or a 50 ounce or an 80 ounce bar and process that separately. Once we own that material, then we commingle it. And we know that a 54% bar and a 53% bar and a 55% bar, it's going to average out. And we have all those, calculations of what we're looking for as well in our material that we now own, that we have paid for, that we have not gotten credit for. So that goes on for further refining. And then we take it back either in metal, we leave it on account to hedge against it or lock gold against it. It really, and then that metal from there goes back into the world as bullion, as gold grain for casting and manufacturing. It goes to the mints. It goes into the industrial world. So it does get recycled. It does get recycled.
Right. Yeah. So it makes it all back into jewelry.
It does.
For sale somewhere. It's a never-ending cycle.
It is, because there's only so much gold and so much platinum and so much palladium and rhodium in the world. There is just only so much. And the mining thing is beyond me, but beyond my pale.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much, Peter, for being here with me today. That was super interesting, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
I wish
Yeah,
I
it's.
wish I could go back. Yeah, I wish I could go back 20 years and be as motivated as you were.
I think you're doing okay. I have full faith that you're going to continue to do well. Yeah, it's look, it's an interesting business. It's been good to me and my family, and it's been good to my clients' families. And there's really nothing else that I would rather do. That's the God's honest truth. So it's a
Well,
good
nice.
place to be.
I know you were one of the most respected ones in the industry as far as when you're at the conventions and the pawn industry goes. So always like
Thank you.
seeing your face there and chatting with you.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thanks again, Peter, and everyone out there. This is a Dweeb's Global production. They give free mentorship help, totally free. Everything from resume writing to mental health, anything in between. They have over 500 mentors around the world, so we have support in every language, every country. So please, dweebsglobal.org.